So, what ruins most women's lacrosse goalies' kind of chances in in this sport? Empty cash. Cool. I'm glad. All right. Cool. Let me know how it works. Right. Let me know how that works for you. Okay. Um. So I work with a lot of girls. A lot of families who have girl goalies seek me out. It's almost, I guess it's like 50-50. And And I have to say this because, and I think I wrote this on my newsletter this week. If you're not on my newsletter, go to lacrossegoalieuniversity.com. Just download the cheat sheets. You get those for free, and you'll be on my newsletter every week. Okay. But one of the things that I can say across the board is that girls over boys, okay, uh, they're hard. They want to do well. Like they want to be better because they tend to heap on all this pressure of all the other kids on the team, right? They and it's unfortunate that they're wired like that. It's a lot of it is social media based. Girls are evil when it comes to team environments. Like people always laugh at me when I say that, but it is like boys will, you know, bully each other in the practice. They'll rough each other up. And that may spill out after practice and in the locker room and or what at lunch and stuff like that. But for the most part, boys will settle it, physically, and it's over, right? Girls will play some level of psychological warfare that it's worthy of any psycho movie out there. Okay, um, so the thing, the thing to understand is that um, the thing to understand is that when you have an athlete who wants to work real hard, okay, who wants to do real well, okay, is that you have to really be critical of what you're working on to give them the best chance to succeed. Right. So one of the things that happens with in for female lacrosse goalies is they get put on a team and just the way that the rules are designed in lacrosse that female goalies get peppered from closer to the cage than boys do. Okay. Um, pretty much when you use my cheat sheets and my goalie scorecards and you use them religiously, you will quickly see in about like 6 games that your goalie is getting shot on from like within 6 yards most of the time, right? And if that were the boys, like they would just be like freaking out all the time, you know. But that's the way the rules are, and that's the way things go. But the thing is that it's really important to understand that for the girls, you want to help your goalie have the best chance of success no matter where they are developmentally. Like, so if they're brand new, I want to give them a chance to succeed. If they're like elite traveling to travel teams all over the country, I want to put them in the best chance to succeed. And depending on their physical, technical, or tactical ability, you have to decide like, okay, where are you going to put your energy? What are you going to do? Okay. But when you think what happens to a lot of coaches is that they think the best way to improve their goalie is to just get more shots. And that is usually my answer. However, you may not, um, you may not, um, that may not be what you need. Okay. So when I look at goalies and I look at them now as, people talk a lot about confidence, but it's really not it's not confidence that a goalie needs. It's courage, right? Confidence is based on past success. But if you haven't had any success yet and you've got to go out tomorrow, well, what you need to go out and just be all in is you need courage, right? And so I encourage my parents to talk to your goalies in terms of courage, not confidence, right? Because going out to play when you don't have all the skills or don't feel you have all the skills, it takes courage. It takes big brass balls, lady balls. Okay. So so the thing though that for a lot of goalies though is they spend time taking shots and they get an understanding of the game, but they're not really cradling, they're not really learning how to pass, They're not working on their stick skills really, because mostly they're just getting shot on, and then in practice they're getting shot on, and they're either getting scored on or they're making a save, and it's like, okay, we're done. Give it back to the offense, all right? And so now your goalie is just like wasting this opportunity, and they're not developing technically, but they're also not developing physically. So let me dwell on that word for a second. Physical development. Okay. So I've had the pleasure to work with some really talented goalies over the years, and I will tell you, to a man, to a woman, the thing that stalls a goalie's development, it's not their technical ability, on how they move in front of a ball. It's not their stick skills. It's their physical ability. Okay, it is ultimately their physical ability that um, that is the glass ceiling for them. With that, okay, with that, I see, and I wrote about this in my book. For those of you guys that have an athlete's guide to winning in sports life, you'll know what I'm about to talk about here. But the idea here is that when you have an athlete who is young and they are good, and let's say they're big for their age, they're tall, they're oversized for their age, and they start winning, start doing well because of that. But yet they're not mobile. They So what happens is that they get by on that aspect of their game to a point where they no longer feel like they need to work on their stick skills or their technical ability, right? You might have a goalie who is undersized, who is just waiting for mother nature to kick in so that they can be the same height as mom or dad or things like that. But based on how they're playing and where they're playing, that may put them behind the eight ball, right? Because, mother nature just kind of hasn't kicked in yet. The thing to understand is that you goalies tend to kind of fall out of the sport based on their physical ability, not necessarily their technical ability. And so one thing to think about is, like, especially in the girls' game, is you think of a player who is you think of a goalie who is like, maybe not physically super fast or twitchy or quick or strong, and and they try to stand. So they stand basically on the goal line because they're always in position. Right, it gives them the best chance of being in position just because of angles. They feel like, okay, centered on the ball. I'm not out. I'm not out of position. But then they get scored on anyway because there's all this net to shoot at. Okay, and then you take that goalie and you say, okay, I want you to step out further away from the cage, and that works on certain shots. But when players are running across the front of the crease, that goalie can't keep up, and then now they're out of position. They get scored on. They say, like, well, I'm never doing that again, and back in the cage they go, which is not the answer, right? The answer there, what happens there is coach makes a short-term decision on a short-term tactical decision that ruins that goalie in the future, right? So basically what it says is like, okay, you're not physically fast enough to move here now. So let's put you back there so you don't have to move so much. So they never actually end up moving enough to get to the point where they're fast enough to play that type of game, which is what needs to happen, right? Now, you look at the kind of the best goalies in the game, and you will say you'll probably agree that they're all pretty athletic, right? They're all pretty athletic. Asia Goldstock, Megan Taylor, others, right? And your goalie may look at that goalie and go, "Oh my god, I can't imagine being like that." And then inside they kind of give up a little bit, and we don't want that. Um, we don't want that. We want your goalie to be um, to realize, and this is where it takes a lot of coaching, it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of encouragement, to go like, okay, you can get there, right? And but like I said, that takes a lot of coaching, it takes a lot of encouragement, and from both parents and coaches and teammates too, because sometimes as parents and coaches, you are offsetting teammates who are, pardon me, but they're bitches, right? Biatches, Beyaatchs, right? Biatches. And then social media might be hammering them too. But the point is that athletes can get there, right? What we don't want to see happen is an athlete who gets by on either like a technical ability, but they never develop the physical skill to really keep it going. Um, or they get by on their physical ability when they're young, but they never develop the technical ability. Because what ends up happening is that there's other athletes who get better physically. The physical part of it always kind of comes up to meet um, to even everything out. So we all know, an athlete who was really like crafty and good when they were young. Doesn't matter what the sport, right? I remember in junior high, Thayer Academy, Braintree, Massachusetts, a couple guys on in the 8th grade team who played like JV and varsity hockey at Thayer at the time, which is a phenomenal hockey school, right? But then they never turned out in anything because they had grown physically and then their technical skills trailed off. But then other athletes who were like super like technically really good and then got by on those skills, but then physically they didn't develop like the maximal strength because they never focused on it to be able to compete. Because competing in a sport is based on maximal strength. It is maximal strength that will win um, uh, when push comes to shove. When your goalie needs to make that save, it is a maximal strength move. Um, uh, uh, to get in position, one, if they got to do it quickly, but then two, the moving in front of the ball, that is a maximal strength move, right? And then make it a pass like longer than they've ever made it before, or craftier than they've ever made it before. Comes down to physical strength. So that is ultimately the thing that in my experience plateaus a goalie, right? Plateaus a goalie at the Division 1 level, plateaus a goalie at like U8, right? But the point is that at U8 and U10, we have some time to be patient. So keep that in mind. Bob Nunn writes, tennis balls can make ladies feel safe and develop body saves because nature of game is so close. Need to develop fast feet and hands. Yes. So, but let me just touch on that comment, Bob. The fast feet and hands. You develop fast, like it's not fast feet we're looking for. Um, we are looking to move the body over the feet. Like unless you're talking about like a kick save, that's a different deal. But the point is this: is that we need to move the body usually over the feet, right? You got to push off like the right leg to be like explode over to the left side, right, and vice versa. We got to be able to apply force on that left foot into the ground through the body to move over to the right side of the cage. That is not a fast foot drill, and I know, Bob, you probably understand that, but I'm just trying to clarify this for everybody, because that's where people start doing like ladder drills. Like, hey, look, I'm doing ladder drills. Eh. Um, and the same thing's true with hands. Like the idea is like, oh, juggling gives you fast hands. No. Um, the idea here is that we are applying force from the ground up through our body, through our hands, into the stick, into the area where the ball is going. That is not just a hands thing either, right? That's a full body thing, right? So you have to train accordingly. Okay. For my Lacrosse Goal University members, I'm doing a lot of work on our strength and conditioning module to get more information on that kind of in the system. So you have more of a background there with which to work. But that's a great point, Bob. I really appreciate it. And yes, tennis balls always are a confidence thing. But again, you know, when you're stronger physically, you tend to feel better in front of a ball, right? Just and that's something to consider, right? So for young, small goalies that aren't physically developed yet, that's something to consider. And I will tell all of you this: if you can empower a female athlete to get into the gym and embrace training with weights, you'll change your life, not just on the lacrosse field, but off. Okay. It's really, really important to understand. Um, Empty Cash asks, any tips on how to deal with one-on-ones? Cash, this is exactly what I'm talking about here. Is you got to develop your physical ability to just be in front of that shooter, all right, and be out there, top of the crease, moving, and giving them hell, because one thing that happens there is not only do you make a save, but two, you scare the bejesus out of them and they miss the cage, which is a factor that nobody talks about enough, right? And that's it's really important to understand that, right? But any tips on dealing with one-on-ones is my recommendation is you really got to be out top of the crease in their face, okay? Because they're right on the top of the crease, and that's your best chance to be as big as possible in front of them, right? So that they either hit you with it, put it in your stick, or throw it wide, or don't shoot at all. Okay, it's really important to understand that. Okay. Um, Bob Nunn, yes, matching stick heads, exactly. So Cash, something to think about, like when you're out, matching stick heads, as Bob said, there is the idea is that you're trying to keep the head of your stick in front of their stick, and so take some time, like right now in your bedroom with your goalie stick or just your hand, and just see what that feels like, right? Just like, see what that feels like, and you'll feel it all the way into your chest, like, and into your core, and you'll feel like your hips stabilize in the ground, and you'll feel like what you need to do to be able to make that happen. Okay, it's really, really important. Doesn't come by juggling, doesn't come by anything like that. Okay. Favorite drills: pipe to pipe movement and heavy stick warm up. Favorite drills. Oh, Bob's favorite drills: pipe to pipe movement and heavy stick warm up. Bob, I would take it one step further, and I would say get some bands around those feet. And I wouldn't actually use the heavy stick, to be honest, because it loads in a different direction. But anything you can do to load the stick on that plane, right? So that's kind of harder to do, because heavy stick loads you with gravity down. Okay. And it's a little bit deceptive, but the idea, what we're trying to do is really get that kind of working that stick on plane, that body on plane. And that comes from load applied all the way around you. Okay. So it's hard to do on a field. It's easier to do, like, with a cable in a gym, those things, or bands or things like that. But that's a good point as well. Right. So use bands for warm up. Cool. Awesome. Cool. All right. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and thanks for listening wherever you are. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you like this, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. When you're ready, head on over to lacrossegoalieuniversity.com/coaching so I can work with you and your goalie. And while you're at it, check out athletespecific.com to learn more about mental performance and high performance. You may not know this, but I work with athletes in a variety of sports. Lacrosse is my love, but man, I love athletes and the families who support them. So head on over to athletespecific.com, check it out. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.